All right, as we continue our Radio Row coverage, we welcome in Rich Gannon. Of course, spent many years in Kansas City.
Say it. One of our own.
One of our own.
One of our own. Say
Rich, I don't want to. I mean, I'll be honest though. They brought me back. I didn't go to the media party last night, and they brought me back this Raiders hat.
Wait, what?
They were handing them out.
How is that even allowed to be on set?
Well,
I
just
had it
thought,
in the trash can.
I thought it'd be nice to give him. He did briefly have it in a trash can. You can't say that to Rich Gannon. He at least played for both.
He did. He did.
Which one did you like
I'm
more?
a tweener. I'm a tweener. I love both of them. I played for 4 years for Marty Schottenheimer, and I was what a great experience. And I also played for Lamar Hunt and got a chance to meet Norma and spend time with them and obviously Clark. But we won 13 games in 2 of the 4 years that I was there, 13-3. You guys know the whole story. We get to the playoffs. We lose to the Colts with Steve Bono. We lose to the Broncos with Elvis Gerbach. And I'm standing there on the sidelines going, all right, let's go. I'm ready to go. But it is what it is. There were some great teams. So many. If you were to ask me who my favorite teammates are, like Dave Zott, Tim Grunhard, John Alt, Marcus Allen, Tony Gonzalez. I mean, I could go on and on about all those great guys. Neil and Derek and Dale Carter, James Hasty, Mark Collins, Danny Salamula. I mean, I could go. They were the best teams that I played on. They were so much fun.
You played with Tony Gonzalez, and obviously the Chiefs continue their fantastic tight end run for a franchise with Travis Kelce. Just offensively, how much harder is it to guard a team when they have that level of receiving threat at tight end?
Well, with the rule changes that have happened, especially in the middle of the field where you can't hit, players up around the house. Now, there used to be a fear of going down the middle of the field. A lot of these guys now have no problem running down the middle of the field. And I think, when you have the ability to attack in the middle of the field with a tight end and a matchup on a linebacker or safety, I mean, there's such an advantage. You think about third down, you think about the red zone, you think about some of those opportunities and matchups. I always said a quarterback's, best friend is a good tight end, and the Chiefs have been blessed to have great ones. I just think what's happening with Travis is really amazing. To me, it looks like the last couple of weeks his legs are coming back. When you look at his explosiveness, his change of direction ability, his ability to get in and out of breaks, he's creating more separation. What we haven't seen earlier in the year was his run after catch ability, which was such a big thing. I think that's starting to come back a little bit, and I think he's going to be a big factor in Sunday night's game.
We're talking to Rich Gannon here. Our guests are brought to you by Spice & Foods, the official sauces of the Kansas City Chiefs, 17-year NFL
Got him right here.
career. That's right. Grab some of that little official. Are you a hot sauce guy? You
No.
like a little hot? No, neither am I. I wasn't sure if you're a hot sauce guy or not overall. But, of course, Cody asked you about Travis Kelce. When you look at where Kansas City sits, though, in the NFL hierarchy now, and did you ever think they're the villains now? They're the team that everybody's chasing, and I guess that everybody hates now.
I just left the radio station over there in Boston with Scott Zolak, and, for 2 decades, think about that, for 2 decades, the Patriots dominated the landscape of the AFC East and the AFC and the National Football League. Look what's happened in the last 8 years with the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, it's utter dominance. Andy's done an amazing job. You got a quarterback that's special. 4 of the last 5 Super Bowls the Chiefs have been a part of, and people don't understand how hard it is to come back after you've won a division and do it again, or how hard it is to get back to a Super Bowl. Look what happened to the Philadelphia Eagles this year. They were 10-1 at one point, and just pumped the brakes and had a screeching crash into a wall to finish the season. I think it's amazing. Even in a year where the Chiefs had some issues offensively, they found a way to get hot and get right at the right time.
Describe back to, I think you'd be a good example of it, because you say 4 to 5 Super Bowls. We're getting used to it in Kansas City because they go so often. But when you were in Kansas City, it'd been 3 decades before they had competed for a Super Bowl. What was the mindset around the franchise then versus just hey, can we get over the hump? How hard, or if that loomed over the franchise at that time? Because we're long past that in Kansas City now.
Yeah, I think the difference with those teams, quite frankly, when I was there in the 90s, was the quarterback position. I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, that's the position that held us back. I love Steve Bono, was a great guy, but he couldn't get us over the hump. Elvis came in, another great guy, couldn't get us over the hump. And so, and that's one of the reasons why I left. I mean, I knew I could do it. I just wanted the opportunity to do it. And for whatever reason, I wasn't given that opportunity in Kansas City with Carl and Marty. But, you got a guy that can – you have a quarterback in Patrick Mahomes that's the best player, not the best quarterback. He's the best player in the NFL right now. And he has the ability to put a team on his shoulders and carry them to the finish line. He has the ability, when things aren't going well around him, to create and manufacture offense on his own. There's not a lot of quarterbacks that can do that. And I think that makes him so special and so unique. And I think what happens is when you're Travis Kelce, when you're one of these young receivers, when you're a defensive player, when you know that you've got Patrick Mahomes on your team, regardless of how the game starts, regardless of what the score is at halftime, you know that you always have a chance. And that is a very powerful feeling and confidence that the Chiefs play with.
What's your confidence on the other side? How do you feel about Brock Purdy's game? I know that this turns into he's a game manager versus he's a superstar quarterback part of it. With the limited evidence we have, because he still hasn't been a starter that long, how good do you think Brock Purdy is?
Oh, look, I get one of those votes for the NFL MVP. He was in my top 5. I mean, he's had that type of season. There's no way around it. He played really well. I mean, he was perfect 5-0 last year, coming in off the bench for Jimmy Garoppolo. He had surgery in the offseason. He's come back. He started out the season 5-0. They went through that stretch where they went through a little bit of a struggle. He struggled against the Ravens, but he's come back and played really well. Didn't play particularly well in the first half against Green Bay or Detroit. Came back and really played well in the second half. He's got to put 4 good quarters together. But he's an impressive guy. He's never going to overpower you with his arm talent. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not Tom Brady. He's not Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't have that type of arm. He's only 6 feet tall. He has to beat you different ways. But he's very smart. He's got a lot of the qualities and intangibles you'd love at that position. Very effective quarterback within the system. You know, this whole thing about game manager, it's just a disrespectful term that people want to throw around. We're all game managers at the end of the day, but some have the ability to put a team on their back. Look, he did it last week. They fell behind. He brought the team from behind. Don't count out Brock Purdy. He's a really talented player.
He's starting to run a little bit more in the postseason.
Yeah.
Is that just we've seen it from Mahomes too? Hey, when everything's on the line, you just do anything you can. Is that what's happening here for Brock Purdy now?
I think he's an instinctive player. The thing that he struggles with. If you go back and watch the tape against the Packers and the Lions, he is only 6 feet tall. He's 6 feet and a half. Push up in the pocket, up inside, really affects him. He can't see. You can't see over the big rush. If Chris Jones can push the pocket and make things difficult on Purdy, that could be a factor. You know, he moves well enough, but he doesn't have the great escapability that, you know, Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes has. But he could be effective. But he's not the biggest guy, and I think where he really struggles is when you get pushed not necessarily off the edges, but up inside. That could be really effective against a guy like Brock Purdy.
Well, it feels like, Chris Jones, as you mentioned, probably about as good as any at doing that. I'm curious, I guess, from the player side of this. We've seen him in the postseason now come to another level, Chris Jones. And look, we make the jokes because it's like, well, he's got $1 million on the line for every game. But I don't think that that's a joke. I mean, I watched him in Week 18 with $1 million on the line play one of the more dominant halves I've seen an interior defensive lineman play in the last 5 years in the league. It's hard not to think about that kind of stuff when it's that amount of money, isn't it?
Yeah, like I don't know what each individual player's motivation is. I know that this guy loves football. I know that when the lights come on, he shows up and plays. And I also know this: the bigger the game, the better he seems to play. I think when you look at what he did last week against the Ravens, the push he can create, how disruptive he can be inside, how he plays the run. You know, I think when you look at his body of work throughout the course of a season, you would say he could be a dominant player when he wants to be. His motor runs a little hot and cold sometimes. You know, that would be the one constructive criticism that I would have. I think he's a phenomenal player. I'd love to have him on my team. But, you know, like you said, his motor, you know, like you watch the end of the game against the Ravens, he wore down. You know, you chase Lamar Jackson around for 60 minutes. That's hard to do. But I think he's going to be a real difference maker in this one.
All right, before we let you go, as we're talking to Rich Gannon here on 610 Sports Radio, it is time to get your game prediction brought to you by Spice and Foods, the official sauces of the Kansas City Chiefs. How do you see this one playing out?
This one's easy for me. A lot of people have been talking about San Francisco's roster. They say they've got better skilled players. They've got better personnel. It is what it is. I think Kansas City's got the better defense. The 49ers have not played particularly well on defense, particularly against the run in the first half against Green Bay and Detroit. Packers rushed for over 100. The Lions had 140-some rushing yards in the first half last week. So I really like Kansas City for a number of reasons. I think their defense, to me, is the big reason. Patrick Mahomes is the other big reason. And I say now that we're in Vegas, I'm not a gambling man. I don't place bets. I don't have a wager on this game. But if I had my last $5 to put on the table, I would never, and I say never with a capital N, bet against Patrick Mahomes. Why would you? How could you? The guy has, if there's one player in the NFL that you would want in a gotta-have-it critical situation, and I've asked hundreds of players on different teams, they all say the same guy, Patrick Mahomes. Why would you bet against Patrick Mahomes?
I think people are finding that out here close. He's 10-1-1 against the spread as an underdog, Rich. So I think people are finding out pretty quickly. You don't want to count that guy out.
I think there's, I was talking to a casino owner the other day, and I think a lot of people were surprised when that spread came out. I know I was. I think there's going to be a lot of money thrown on the Chiefs here in the next couple of days.
It's just one of those, if the Chiefs are underdogs, I'm putting money on it. Like, if I'm getting points and Patrick Mahomes, I'm good. I'll put some money on it and take my chances.
You guys are the best. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.